Good day. I am Pastor Neil Weemus, and this is a recording of my review, my reaction to the movie Thunderbolts. I first have to apologize that I have not recorded for a while. I had to look at it. I had not recorded a video since basically the end of August, right after I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in theaters for its re-release, and so I haven't done anything since then. And this is kind of where I got to remind is I try my best. I want to try to get at least a video or two a week, but things get crazy, things get chaotic, and I prefer to do my videos when I know the phone's not going to ring, it's quiet in the office, things like that. So tonight it worked well. And there's a few videos I'd love to do. I'd like to do a video. I'm doing the video here on the movie Thunderbolts. I'd love to do one on Superman, the new Superman film. I know I've done one before, but now that it's out on digital, I would like to do a fresh reaction to it. I'd like to. These really really good slides of this post that I saw on Facebook that I really love to react to and do a video reaction. I still like to finish my Lord's Supper series. So there's a lot of things I'd like to talk about, and maybe even do some research, do maybe a classic movie, maybe something that's Halloween themed or fall themed or football themed or something like that. So, with that in mind, we're going to look into this movie, Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts came out in this past May, and I thought it was a really, really good movie. So, here in 2025, there have been 4 mainstream superhero movies. Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Superman, and Fantastic Four. And I'd say 3 out of those 4 movies I'd say have been pretty good. I have to go rewatch Captain America. I didn't think it was terrible. And I should note, as I say this, I know it's really common in this age of social media. Everything's white trash. Everything's hot garbage. Whatever. I don't like that because it removes the nuance in films. There are very few movies that are all good or all bad. All right, most movies, it's a little bit nuanced. I wish people would put a little bit more think. It's like, well, I didn't like, this part was pretty good, but I wasn't a fan of this. And I mean, honestly, if anybody says about a movie, it's like, oh, this movie was garbage, I will dismiss pretty much everything you say from then on. Because I know that it signals to me that you are not capable of deep intellectual conversation. I know that's harsh, especially given what I'm going to talk about a little bit. But anyways, and I know that people will probably say this about Superman because there's so much war and fighting between people about the Superman movie. People will say that about Fantastic Four. I think some people are not happy unless they have something to complain about. But anyways, with the superhero movies of 2025, the movie that I thought was the best, I honestly believe was Thunderbolts. And I've watched this quite a few times, especially since it's been on Disney+. I saw it once in theaters, and when I saw it in theaters, I thought it was okay. And I think this kind of expands on why I think it didn't do well in the box office. I think it had the wrong release date. You can see right there on the I have this up the background image from Tracked.tv. They have the release date of May 2nd, 2025. May 2nd is not exactly what I'd call a release date for a movie like Thunderbolts, because Thunderbolts was a very character-driven film. Did it have action moments? Yes. But not in the way the Fantastic Four did, or Superman did, or even Captain America Brave New World did. I honestly believe those 2 movies, the release date should have been flipped, because Captain America Brave New World was much more action-based, more CGI stuff. Thunderbolts was very much character exploration, and it doesn't fit for early May, for the start of the summer blockbuster season. And so I kind of, it's my fault. It's not the fault of the creators. But I came in with probably the wrong mindset. Maybe I was not very maybe I was tired. Whatever the reason, I just didn't connect with it the way I did before. So I rewatched it when it came out on digital, and I ended up really loving this movie because of the characters, the character depth. And there's even and then after I rewatched it, I saw this really great video. So this is a YouTube channel I like to watch every now and then. It's called Cinema Therapy. And these two guys did a really, really good examination of Thunderbolts from the perspective of mental health. And one of the things, call me ignorant, I apologize. I don't know, maybe as a pastor, maybe I should know this, but I didn't know that shadow or void therapy was a thing. I didn't know about that. And it plays out all throughout. And then after I heard about that, I went and rewatched the movie again. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing all these other things I didn't see before. And so, like I said, this is just a really good movie. And I really do recommend Cinema Therapy. I mean, these guys aren't. I think this guy, he's Mormon. I don't know about him. And it's really bad that I'm calling this guy and this guy. I should probably know their names as many times as many of their videos as I've watched. But I would say that I agree with them at least 95% of the time. And I think it's really, really wonderful, helpful stuff. And it's kind of a fun way to explore mental health. So let's go back to Thunderbolts. So the movie, almost from the get-go, is very well designed. It starts out with Yelena, who we were first introduced to Yelena in the movie Black Widow. And in Black Widow, almost from the minute you introduced to her, you kind of love this character. She's awesome in Hawkeye. I don't know. I don't know if she's been in anything since Hawkeye. Maybe she hasn't. I can't think of it. But anyways, she was really great in that one. I really loved her conversation with Kate Bishop over macaroni and cheese and hot sauce. And then in this movie, she was Yelena, who was played by Florence Pugh. Apologize if I mispronounced her name. Poe or Pooh. She's actually a great actress. I've seen her in so many good movies. And I should probably get her name pronunciation right. Yeah, okay. I'm not doing well with names today. I apologize. But anyway, she did really, really well in this. But the movie begins with her at the top of this building. And it kind of, the way you see her, it's almost reminiscent of The Dark Knight. Except in The Dark Knight, he's like this determined guy to carry out this mission. But here, this is where I appreciate this show, because I didn't really catch on to this. I saw that she was wearing, just sweats. And for some reason, I did not really put two and two. I'm like, it's kind of a lame outfit compared to what she normally has. But when you take up what goes on in the rest of the movie, you realize, oh, there's a reason she's wearing that instead of her typical tactical gear. Because, and she says it in a few minutes. She says, I must have been really tired when I watched this the first time. But she just didn't care. She's going through the motions. And I like that, again, like the cinema therapy brought up the usage of shadows so early on in the movie. And then she has this, she has this line, what's the point? She's having this conversation with the Red Guardian, who was kind of her father figure. And she asks him, what's the point? What's the point of all this? And the answer that he gives at that point isn't actually correct. He says, glory for your nation, or whatever. And at that point, he's not exactly correct. And you see it with him, he is struggling. He thinks that's where glory comes from, is that's the purpose, is to have glory with the nation. And if that is what, that's called to, that's a good thing. That could be a good thing. It can be, depending on how you get the glory and all that stuff. But is that really the point of life? Is that the purpose? And I'm going to say obviously no. I love the way that they do Bucky in here, and I think Bucky's inclusion in the film is really good, because he's a character that, his legacy. He's had he was brainwashed. He was forced to work for Hydra, do these unthinkable, horrible missions. And now in this, he's, he's a congressman, and I I love how awkward he is at it, and how much he's not used to it. He hates having to read the legal mumbo jumbo, the packets and all that stuff, but he does really good with it. But he kind of plays out like that groovy coach, like in those basketball or football movies. He comes in and he brings the team together and makes them a lot better. And that's kind of what he's going to be. He plays out in Thunderbolts. Let's see here. Valentina Allegro de Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who, when I think of her, I tend to think of Elaine from Seinfeld. She is so good in this role. I mean, and I actually think she's got a bit of a range in it. Like at the beginning, the first time you see her, she's on trial to be impeached for her misconduct as CIA director. And the thing I love is, like, she is so confident, so charismatic. And you're watching and you think, oh, this lady, she must be okay. And then they show very quickly to let you know that she's very much a politician. She's definitely got her skeletons in the closet, so to speak. And I love the way she plays it out. I love how she delivers the lines, the way how she interacts with her assistant. She just nails this role. I mean, for every moment that she's in there, she's good. She's really good with that facial energy, communicating and trying to read her. Very, 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 very good character. And by the way, what you see here, talking about strong female characters, these two characters, Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Florence Pugh, that is how you do strong female characters. The way these two were written, yeah, they're strong. They're very good, well-written female characters. And I hope Marvel takes notes on this and say, oh, this is how we do it, right? And the thing is like, through this, I mean, pretty much all these characters, do a really good job with what they have. Florence was good, so Yelena, Bucky, Valentina, Robert Reynolds, Bob, we'll get to him in a little bit. Alexei, so David Harbour, who plays the Red Guardian, he's so good. I love his character arc even. He's so high energy, and he's got that personality that I know people like him. And they're so energetic, and they're so good at encouraging people. And you see him trying so hard to do it for other people. But you also notice that, he just doesn't have his life together. He's so depressed. I love when he's like, you're supposed to leave the bag on the door. I'll report you to DoorDash HQ. I totally love it. John Walker, Wyatt Russell, who's Kurt Russell's son. He is so good. He's good in this role. He's a jerk throughout it, but you can't help but sense that there's a good guy behind this, because you realize that the reason he is being the way he is because he hates himself. It's like he doesn't want anyone to get close to him because the people that have got close to him have left him. The one character I'd say they kind of let down with was Ava. She plays Ghost. Uh, my thing with her is I think they really didn't do much with her. I mean, when she spoke, when she had her moments, I think she did well, but they just need to figure out a way to give her a little bit more. Um, so yeah, it is such a good movie, and like I said, every character is so good in this. Now there's this the messages that I really kind of cling to in this, and this is where I really like to get the focus. I've talked about the quality, I know, but I want to talk about the messages that get in here, the messages, the underlying themes of this film. Um, I thought it was kind of cool at the beginning, and I don't know what to make of this. There's the character of Bob. He has kind of a dual personality thing. And they meet him in this fiery furnace, and they refer to him as a fourth man. And I can't help but think about that. I've been trying to chew on that. That, because you can't help but think of Daniel chapter 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The very, very familiar account. And there is a fourth, like a son of man, who many paintings have, that was Jesus. And many have argued that the fourth man was Jesus, or the second person of the Trinity. And the character of Sentry, that's who Bob is, by the way. He's Sentry. The character Sentry has had parallels to Superman. Very obvious ones, but he's Superman with some major issues. Superman is a character that has often been portrayed as being kind of a Jesus type figure. And here you have Robert Reynolds, Sentry character, who you can't help but think, is this like a dark way of going it? I don't know. I don't know if the movie's trying to go there, something with that. It's kind of something to chew on. Because he didn't really save them, unlike the fourth man in the fiery furnace and Daniel. And again, like I said, I don't really know what to go with that. But the thing I really want to the thing that's the most to focus on is that every single one of these characters are messed up. I mean, Yelena, you look at what she had to do serving as this child assassin. The things that they made her do was just horrible. And I have to give credit, the way they make these guys look and gals is for Florence, she's an attractive young lady, right? But they make her look like, I mean, Valentina said it. I don't mean this to be harsh or anything. She's designed in this movie. They do her best to make her look like, I don't mean to sound as insulting, but look like a mess. Make like she looks like a mess, and it's just reflective of what her life is at this point in the story. Louis Pullman's Bob. I mean, he is so everyday. He looks like a person that you could walk across on the street. David Harbour, again, his character, and he's always been this kind of guy in almost every movie he's in. He looks like a guy that you run into in the bar. Wyatt Russell's character. There's any of a number of people that I know that he kind of reminds me of the way he looks, the shade, the facial hair and that exhaustion look. I mean, they carry that vibe. I mean, obviously Valentina looks like she's a politician, and she should. Ava doesn't get quite that casual look as much. I mean, kind of, maybe a little bit. Again, that just deals with, I think they need to do a little bit more work with their character. And that's not a knock on the actress. I think that's just, the writing needs to go there. And it's not even a criticism to the writing, because I have to say that the writing, the director, so Jake Schreier, I gotta remember who the writer was. Yeah, Eric Pearson was the main writer. So Jake Schreier, Eric Pearson, they did a really good job trying their best to balance all these characters. And honestly, after watching this, I'd love to see them tackle the X-Men because I think they get a good handle on it. Because one of the things I've not seen, I mean, we've seen X-Men movies since 2002, so no 2000, so 25 years worth of X-Men movies. We haven't really seen X-Men movies. I mean, kind of X-Men First Class, but for the most part, we have not really seen them truly wrestle with the mutant prejudice and all that. And so I'd love to see them dig into that a little bit more. And I think that this is a guy that could handle that. He shows in here he could deal with the ensemble casting. He could deal with I think he did a good job of dealing with the backstories. But like I said, going back to it, like all these guys, these characters, they look very like normal every day, but they're also, I mean, they're mess. Again, I talked about Yelena. Bucky, he's kind of he's trying to get his life together, but it's well known he had his life as his ass. This guy, oh my goodness, the past, the drug abuse, and not. Oh, and by the way, she definitely has issues of alcohol abuse. But he's got mental health, bipolar, or possibly even dissociative personality disorder. I'd probably have to do a little bit more diagnosis, but he's definitely got some issues going on. David Harbour definitely dealing with depression. He's dealing with depression, rejection, rejection. So I mean, like I said, none of these, they all have a mess of a life. And this is where I love this little, and I think it's quite appropriate to kind of explore this talk. I apologize, I'm rambling and I'm going all over the place. I apologize for that. But I think it's appropriate to talk about this because mental health is definitely a concern as a pastor, and it's a concern as a culture, as a country. There are so many people hurting. There are so many people struggling with anxiety. I mean, I probably brought it up before, the Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation. And I keep saying it's a book that I think everybody should be reading. Kids, anxiety is sky high, depression is sky high, loneliness is sky high, hopelessness is sky high, suicide rates are climbing. And that's appropriate for me to bring up as it is September, Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. We need to be talking about it. I mean, if you're struggling with alcohol addiction like Yelena's character, get help. Don't struggle in silence. Yes, I mean, the scriptures tell us, scriptures do not have prohibitions against drinking in and of itself, but it most definitely has prohibitions against getting drunk. And if you're struggling with alcoholism, if it has become your crutch, your addiction, your force of self-medication, get help. Consider joining AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Maybe you're like Robert Reynolds and you're struggling with drug addiction. NA, Narcotics Anonymous, is a wonderful organization. Right here at our church, we actually have an NA group that meets here twice a week. Again, don't struggle in silence. Get help. Maybe you're like Alexei Shostakov. Again, I apologize for mispronouncing the character name. The Red Guardian. If you're like him, lonely, isolated, find a community. And I'm going to get to that a little bit more. I'm going to come back to him a little bit. Maybe you're like him, John Walker. There's this one scene where you see him standing on the edge of this cliff. He's looking down this elevator shaft that's very, very deep. And they ask him, "Hey, John Walker." And he says, "I'm fine. I'm okay. I'll be okay." It kind of hints at he doesn't want anybody to know how big of a mess he is, pretending it's all right, but in reality it isn't. And he's looking down that thinking, maybe it would just be better if I made that jump. I think he's being a douche, being a jerk to people, so that nobody would depend on him. They'd never get close to anybody and be vulnerable to losing him again. I've known many people in my life who've tried. I've known a few people in my life who tried to take their lives. I've known people in my life who have struggled with suicidal thoughts. And even I have. If you are struggling, get help. Talk to people. Don't struggle in silence. Talk to people. And unlike Yelena's advice, don't bury it deep down. Don't bury the void deep down. Because all it does is it rears its ugly head in ugly ways. Again, I can't really say much on Ava because, again, they didn't do much with her. But like I said, this is the story of so many people. And I want to kind of go to this scene in the movie. There's this conversation between Yelena and Alexei. And you can see this is off of Internet Movie Database. He says, this is Yelena. She says, "Daddy, I'm so alone. I don't have anything anymore. All I do is sit and look at my phone and think of all the terrible things that I've done. And then I go to work, and then I drink, come home to no one, and I sit and think about all the terrible things I've done again and again, and I go crazy." Man, you just read that, you almost want to break down just reading that. And Florence, she did a good job in this scene delivering it. And what she's expressing here, this is the story of so many people right now. Alone, isolated. They sit and look at their phone, and I wish I could tell you that I am not that way. But I'll be honest with you, that hit close to home for me too. Now, I don't think of the terrible things that I've done, but I do sometimes find myself stuck thinking about what I don't have. I actually kind of quite like Alexei Shostakov, the guy that plays her daddy, her father figure. I kind of feel more like him at times. I don't drink, but I think some of you know that. You drink or medicate in some other ways. And can't help, this is kind of one of those things I'd love to do sometimes, is I read this quote. Sometimes I think I'd love to do like a This and That movie video series where I look at two different movies that are like very different genres, or they're not of the same franchise at least, or something like that, and compare their themes. And so like here with Thunderbolts, I'd love to compare this with the movie Groundhog Day. Because there's this little scene in the bar where where Phil, the weatherman, which is played by Bill Murray, has very similar lines. And some people complain, it's like, oh, I heard such and such movie said this line. Well, of course there's going to be similarity. We're all human. We are the same human race. There's going to be overlap. Similar experience is going to lead to similar situations. So Lexi says, Yelena, stop. We all have things that we regret. No, but I have so many. I think all of us could talk about that. We have things that we regret. Now, in Yelena's character, she regrets the things that she was made to do in service to the Red Room. And I mean, I'm guessing if you're watching this, you don't struggle with what you did in service to an assassin organization or a mercenary organization, whatever you want to call it. But I have a feeling many people, there's something that you've done, something that weighs you down. Yelena says, my first test at the Red Room. Now this scene has been plays out throughout the movie. But Anya, she was just a child. She was so small. And Alexei says, so were you. I know they were dark times, very, very dark times. But before, you were such a special little girl. Did you know this? You walked into the room and made it bright. You felt a lot of joy. Now, when I heard that first speech right there, my first thought was, that's not good advice. And I honestly think it was not the best reaction. Because our temptation sometimes is to see that. To tell somebody, well, I remember when you were a good person, so I think, I don't have the full quote here. Maybe I gotta find somewhere else to find the full quote. But I think somewhere where she says that, I don't feel that anymore. And I do agree the answer is not, well, you were one time a good person. But I do like, again, comparing another movie. He says he sees these things in you. He sees these good things in you. I can't help but think of the end of the movie, Blood Diamond, where the father is talking to the son who has been manipulated into this child army. And the tears like, you are my son. And I think of that scene. I encourage you, if you get a chance, just go onto YouTube and just watch. If you could find it, just find a clip of this conversation between Alexei and Yelena and watch it. And if you got Disney Plus, just watch it, pause and listen to it. And understand the way that he is talking to her is the way our God looks at us. Is he knows your son, he knows your sin, he knows that you've done wrong. And yet he still looks at you and loves you because you are his son. And like, well, you might be thinking, well, I'm a lady, I'm not no son. Well, son's not about gender, it's about social status. Sons in the ancient world were heirs. So he says, you are my son to you. Because he has washed you in his blood, he has made you his in the water of baptism. The scene goes on. It says, Yelena, you know what you told me about why you wanted to be goalie on that soccer team? Again, got to watch the movie for some context. And she says, so I wouldn't have to run as much? Maybe that too. But you told me, I want to be the person everyone relies on when they make a mistake. And see, this is the thing. This gets to the heart of this movie. And this is where we go back to the character of Robert. The character of Robert is a mess. And he ends up being the antagonist. But he ends up being somebody that both is the villain, but he's somebody that doesn't need to be defeated, but needs to be saved and shown that you matter. To be shown that he is not alone. And that's why the end of this movie, I know some people, well, what? That's how he was defeated? by a, by this moment, like, yeah, that's the only way you could be defeated. And I know people hate the idea that compassion and love can sometimes help and save people, but it's true. In the last week and a half, our nation has been torn apart. I mean, let's be fair, it's been torn apart for much longer than that. But it's been on the minds of everyone. Maybe we need to be more loving and compassionate. I mean, when you look at this, these two are Russian, American, slash, you got a Hydra type thing. You have these different people from different backgrounds, different situations. Note, I did not like that they killed her off so fast. Sorry, spoiler alert. But you look at these characters, they come together and they find purpose. This is why you go to church, by the way. This is why you go to a Bible study and you're part of church groups. If you're a lady, go join LWML if you have a church in your church or ladies group. Men, we need men's groups. That's why we have youth groups. Things like that is so you could find that community, the place where you could find somebody who loves you and cares about you. Knows that you're broken, knows that you're frail, knows that you are not ideal, and welcomes you in anyways. And that, by the way, is who our God is. He knows who you are. He knows your brokenness. And he still dies for you. He still forgives you. So, like I said, as this is suicide prevention awareness, and I'm talking about these topics, get help. Don't be afraid to get help. Talk to people if you need to. And this movie really, really was a good movie about mental health. And like I said, get help. I say this as a pastor. I told this. We had suicide prevention and awareness night at the volleyball game here in town a couple nights ago. And before the moment of silence, I said the same thing I say almost every year. I'm a pastor, which means I do funerals. And this year we've done 13. I've done 13 funerals. And some funerals are tougher than others. I mean, it doesn't mean that the person, it just kind of a lot of times has to do with how you connect to a person, the nature of how the person died. There's a lot of circumstances to that as to how emotional it is. But I could tell you that if I had to do a funeral for one of my youth, or even attend a funeral for one of my youth who are work or a part of Key Club or whatever, I know I would struggle quite a bit. To know that a kid that I was called to serve and I work with felt so down that they thought that that was the only answer. I don't want to ever have to do that. I mean, if the situation comes, I guess I'm going to have to. But I very much would hope not. For the sake of your pastor, whether it be me or some other pastor, don't take that answer. Don't make your pastor have to do this sermon. Don't make anybody have to do that sermon. And don't say, well, I just won't have a service. No. That ain't going to be the answer either. Because that'd make it worse. Get help. Talk to people. And you may find that you're more loved and cared for than you realize. Don't make that permanent decision for a temporary problem. Well, that's what I got for today. I do encourage you to see this movie, Evan, especially if you're a superhero movie fan. I'll do the Superman movie probably next. So blessings. Go to worship tomorrow morning, and have a good day. In Jesus' name, amen.